The early morning air was thick with dew and determination. Cars glistened under the first light of day at the Titan Motors flagship dealership in Phoenix, Arizona. It was the kind of lot where dreams were parked with price tags and people came hoping to trade worries for horsepower. But on this particular Tuesday morning, someone walked in not to buy, but to understand. Samuel Griffin, the elusive billionaire CEO of Titan Motors, buttoned his faded plaid shirt and adjusted the old baseball cap hiding his signature silver streaks. For the first time in over a decade, he wasn't arriving in a limousine or followed by cameras. Today, he walked in through the side entrance like any other customer, unnoticed, unguarded, and intentionally unknown. For months, Samuel had heard rumors, anonymous letters from customers, whispers from insiders, and troubling online reviews. Something was off at one of his most profitable dealerships. Numbers still looked solid, but his gut told him otherwise. And Samuel Griffin was a man who always trusted his gut. As he stepped onto the showroom floor, he was greeted with the shine of polished SUVs, muscle cars, and sales banners that screamed, "Deals of the month." But no one greeted him. Not even a glance. He stood awkwardly by a water cooler, watching the hustle of sharp-suited salespeople crowd around flashy clients while ignoring a tired-looking couple with a toddler crying softly in the background. He waited. And waited. Finally, a young woman, no older than 25, broke away from organizing some paperwork and approached him with a hesitant smile. Her name tag read Elena. "Hi, sir. Can I help you?" Samuel smiled. "I hope so. I'm looking for something reliable. Nothing fancy. Just something safe for long commutes." She nodded warmly. "Of course. Let's take a look. I think I know exactly what you need." For the next 20 minutes, Elena walked him through a few pre-owned vehicles, highlighting not just the features but also the flaws with an honesty that surprised him. She didn't push. She didn't oversell. And most importantly, she listened. As they wrapped up the walk-around of a modest but sturdy sedan, she asked, "Do you want to go over financing options?" Samuel nodded, curious to see how far the process would go. Inside, she led him to her desk, passing a few salesmen who chuckled as they watched. "You wasting your time with that one again, Elena," one of them mocked. She ignored it. At her cubicle, she opened a drawer and pulled out a thick stack of documents, standard financing contracts, insurance disclosures, and dealership agreements. Samuel glanced over them with the eyes of someone who had signed 1,000,000 contracts before. But then, he froze. On the bottom right corner of the dealership's financing contract, under Dealer Policy Section 9B, was a line he had never authorized. Low-income or subprime applicants must purchase extended warranties and add-on packages totaling a minimum of $2,000 in order to qualify for approval. His stomach sank. This wasn't just unethical. It was exploitative. Samuel had built Titan Motors on the belief that quality cars should be accessible, that dignity wasn't something you charged extra for. This clause punished the very people he built his company to help. He looked at Elena, who shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "This part, it's mandatory here. I've tried to speak up, but..." Her voice trailed off. Just then, a tall, smug man walked by and stopped. "Still pushing contracts for the losers, Elena," he sneered. His name was Victor Crane, the sales director, and the true source of fear in the dealership. He was the kind of man who measured success in commissions, and compassion in dollar loss. Samuel watched Victor closely. He was arrogant, smooth-talking, and had a grip over the staff like a dictator in a tailored suit. He glanced at Samuel with mild disdain. "Don't waste her time, old man," Victor added with a smirk. "She's got quotas to meet." Samuel said nothing, hiding the storm building within. He thanked Elena, asked for her business card, and left. But that night, he didn't sleep. He kept thinking about the elderly couple he saw being dismissed. About Elena's eyes, tired but defiant. And about Victor Crane. The next morning, the dealership's regional director received an unexpected email. Samuel Griffin himself would be visiting at 10 a.m. sharp. By 9:45, the staff was in chaos. The same men who had mocked Elena were now scrambling to clean, straighten ties, and fake smiles. Victor Crane laughed it off. He won't be here long. These things are PR stunts. At 10 a.m. On the dot, the glass doors opened. But instead of the Samuel they expected, they saw the same man from yesterday. Only now he walked with a straightened back, a clean-shaven jaw, and a face that graced financial magazines around the world. Elena dropped the file folder in her hands. Victor's smirk vanished. "Good morning," Samuel said calmly. "I believe we have something to discuss." The staff gathered in the conference room as Samuel placed a printed copy of the contract clause on the table. No one dared speak. "I've always said integrity should cost nothing," Samuel began, his voice measured but firm. But here, someone decided to make it a $2,000 surcharge. Rick, the general manager, stammered. "Sir, this must have been added by legal to offset risk. Legal doesn't write policies I don't approve." He turned to Elena. "You stood by what's right, even when it cost you sales. That's the kind of leadership I built this company on." Elena blinked back tears. She had never imagined a day like this. Victor stepped forward, defiant. "With all due respect, Mr. Griffin, the reality is that sympathy doesn't pay bills. I increased profits by 22% this quarter." Samuel looked him square in the eyes. "At the cost of your soul?" The room was silent. "You're fired, Victor. Effective immediately." Security was called. Victor protested, shouted, and finally stormed out, his pride dragging behind him. Samuel turned back to the room. "This dealership will undergo a full audit. Every employee who was complicit will be dealt with. But those who stayed honest." He looked at Elena. "Elena, I'd like you to consider stepping into the new assistant general manager role. You've got integrity, courage, and the one thing this place desperately needs, heart." That evening, Elena sat in the manager's office, her office, going through reports. A small plant sat beside a framed photo of her late father, who used to fix old cars in their backyard. She smiled softly, remembering his words, "Fixing a car's easy. Fixing a broken system, that takes guts." A knock came at the door. It was Samuel. He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a scholarship fund in her father's name to help single mothers train as mechanics. "Because kindness deserves legacy," he said. Outside, the stars began to flicker across the Arizona sky. And inside, something beautiful had shifted, not just in the dealership, but in the hearts of everyone who watched one brave woman stand tall, and one CEO remember why he built his empire in the first place.